There you go. All right. You ready for your intro?
Let's go.
There you go.
That was awesome.
Thanks. That's what I've been doing with my time, and that is for you, my friend,
I
and
appreciate it.
6 other people before you.
Lucky number 7.
That's right. That's right. You know, I taped an episode with Bader.
Really?
Yeah, it was.
Where can I see that one? Where can I watch
Here's the problem. I forgot to download it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and actually, he's going to be my recurring guest. That was the plan because to this day he'll still call me up and we'll just shoot the shit for 3 hours about random stuff.
Yeah.
And he sent me a message months ago where it was like, out of nowhere, top 5 Eddie Murphy movies. And I wrote him back. I was like, hold it, let's do a podcast. So we did an hour of Eddie Murphy talk.
That is awesome. And please do that one again so I can watch it.
Yeah, we might have to. I might just be like, Vader, we got to do this again. But it ended up being like 20 minutes of Eddie Murphy worship and then 40 minutes of us being dumb, like talking about wings.
I mean, how could you not? When we went to Richmond, we met Bader at Buffalo Wild Wings.
I'm surprised it wasn't Chili's. Was the Chili's closed? Or did you guys actually get to call the turf?
So actually, Chili's was charging people to get in, I think. Like it was like a DJ or something. And they were charging people to get into Chili's. So we went to Buffalo Wild Wings.
Because we're old now, and that seems ridiculous.
Yeah, that's right. Like I'm gonna pay admission to get into Chili's.
See, when you say it like that, it does sound incredibly stupid.
Yeah.
There you go. All right, man. You ready?
Let's go. Let's rock.
All right, here we go. So you gave me these 3. You gave me this list of 3 as your 3 favorite movies. Now, favorites. I really want to make sure because I rewatched. Well, full disclosure, I rewatched 2 of them because the third one I fell asleep. Not the third movie.
You fell asleep on Star Wars.
Yes, yeah, totally.
Because
again, I'm old, cool. And especially after watching Life in Django, it was like. It's like a lot of shooting. Yeah, I mean, Star Wars,
right? But I'm a huge Star Wars nerd, so
yeah. So and I do you want to start with Star Wars?
We can start there.
Yeah, let's do that. All right, here we go. I'm gonna click on another thing, unless I forgot to put it up. No, there it is. Boom.
Oh wow, look at that. Okay.
Buttons to press. So. Why is this one of your 3 favorite movies?
All right, so there's so many reasons. So first of all, I'm a huge Star Wars fan. I felt like I grew up everything Star Wars.
Right.
The movies in the theaters. I remember my brothers. I can't remember which birthday party it was, but we went to see Return of the Jedi and then went to Lionel Kitty City to go get Star Wars toys for him for his birthday. So this was it's like a big thing. Like, so the Jedis are like a big thing in our family. Like our dad would always talk about like the Star Wars, like the Force as like in relation to yoga and like the whole like the interconnected nature of everything and like how it flows through, like that pranic energy flows through you. So Star Wars is a big thing in our home, and I felt like this was like the pinnacle of Star Wars movies because it was like, it was like how Anakin transitioned into Darth Vader. It was some of the most badass lightsaber fights of all time. Like that one with Obi-Wan and Anakin was just like 25 minutes of them fighting through lava and jumping from like robot to robot as they're fighting. You got Yoda against Palpatine. You have like how the Emperor turns Anakin into Vader. You have Order 66 where they wipe out all the Jedis. Then you have like I remember at the end of Attack of the Clones, like Count Dooku kicks Anakin's ass. Then Anakin comes in all like badass, like now I got you. Won't chops his head off. Yeah. He gets his revenge real quick. They throw General Grievous in there. Like there's just so much going on. You have the birth of Luke and Leia. You have like the whole like Anakin getting chopped up and then getting his Darth Vader suit. Like there's just, I feel like it's just so much cool stuff in that movie. And then like the special effects caught up to where they were supposed to be. Where I felt like and then it like actually showed everybody's force powers. Like, I mean, like A New Hope was cool at the time, but like that lightsaber scene at the end between Obi-Wan and Darth Vader was like, what was like that wasn't really that cool. Like you didn't really see that many force powers, so it was just like I feel like this one was like the pinnacle of Star Wars movies. I mean, a lot of people argue for Empire Strikes Back, great movie,
Of
but
course.
I still think this is still my personal favorite. Like it's one of those movies that like I can always watch. If I'm flipping through the channels and it's on, I'm going to stop and I'm going to watch it from wherever it is in the movie.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because with everything you're doing now, like with Holistic Life Foundation, I said it out loud. Which, by the way, I don't. I mean, we talked about this. I'm pretty sure we talked about this, but it's legit the only like. This is gonna sound weird, but it's legitimately the only organization I support. Like if there's
that
to
makes me feel
think,
good, man.
it's like every time you guys would post, like as soon as I found out what you guys were doing, it was just like this massive like this is doing something.
Yeah.
Like for reals doing something. Every time other people are like, "Oh, I'm doing this thing," I'm just like, I don't know how much that's really doing. And but I but it seemed when I first heard, it seemed out of nowhere. But you're saying that like you guys were into yoga like in back in the day?
So like back when our parents were together and we were living in West Baltimore, full time, like with because both of our parents were there. Like we grew up like meditating in the mornings, probably from as early as I can remember through maybe like fifth grade when my parents split up, and then after they split up was when we stopped meditating. So
Hmm.
and it, like we even grew up in like one of those. You ever read Autobiography of a Yogi?
No.
You ever heard of it's like this book by Paramahansa Yogananda, like Self Realization Fellowship, where it's
Hmm.
like based on like his practice of Kriya Yoga and breath work. So like we grew up like the church that we grew up in was like a Self Realization Fellowship church that like incense crystals, meditation, like all that stuff. So it was like it wasn't anything we shared with anybody because shit was
No,
weird.
no,
Like back then
no.
that shit was weird. Man. Like now we'd have been the coolest motherfuckers on the planet, but back then it'd have
Totally.
been like that shit was just weird. So we just like we did our thing and then we went about our business.
Well, it kind of explains a lot about like again just why we loved you guys,
Right?
like you and your
Everything full
brother.
circle. Yeah, I mean, we
Yeah.
did we stopped practicing for a long. Like I guess again, like fifth grade, we stopped practicing and didn't practice again until probably like the end of college, like the end of like
Huh.
I guess my second or third senior year at University of Maryland, whatever, whatever, whatever one it was when we started practicing again. So yeah,
Well, I mean, I guess that I mean, but that even if you guys stopped practicing, I mean, up till fifth grade, that established a pretty cool base, and especially with, like you said, why? Because it's interesting when people pick Star Wars, because a couple of people pick Star Wars. Um, Most people pick, like we said, technically Episode 4, the first one, because
yeah,
it's the first one.
yeah.
Um, Another person picked Jedi because, again, it was that time of his life. Like
Mm-hmm.
it hit, but in terms of like you but the whole arc, yeah, the third one is the best one. Like I was so excited. The word around town was like if the last three are going to be as good as episode 3, then this is going to be epic and incredible.
Yeah,
um I I mean,
not so much.
not as much.
Yeah,
I was kind of bummed. Well, let's talk. I'm trying to focus on episode 3,
yeah.
because I will talk about the last 3. Uh, but okay, so what is it? Because so yeah, I was saying that like that connection to. I mean, you had a base in an energetic connection that runs through all things. Therefore, the Force wasn't just some really cool thing that was like it was a real thing.
Yeah, it was showing off real thing. Like it made sense to me. Like when they were talking about the Force, I'm like, I feel like that's why I didn't like Solo. Like I'm a huge Han Solo fan, like Han
Right.
Solo, Chewbacca, all that. But there was like, I feel like the thing that turned me off was that there was no Force in it. You know what I mean? Like, and that I gravitate towards that. I love seeing it. I love seeing people's Force power. Like even like Rogue One didn't have a lot of the Force in it, but that last scene with Darth Vader,
Oh,
like going ballistic on everybody was like you could have had the rest of the movie could have been about anything, but just that last scene made the movie.
Well, I like how you say their force powers and like watching the fighting and the force stuff that happened in the first Star Wars compared to the anything that happened after that. That reminds me of like rewatching any James Bond movie with Sean Connery and the fight scenes,
Yeah,
and it's like they're hit like left-handed like this,
yeah,
and it's supposed to be like this is the badass spy. No, like
yeah. It's sad how some movies just don't hold up over time. Like you go back and you watch and be like, this movie was awesome. You go back and be like, no, it wasn't.
Well, another thing I liked about Star Wars 3 or that one, and again from which I watched, and in the Star Wars canon is that this is just the darkest one. I
Yeah,
mean,
I mean,
it shows the full spectrum of the
Order
story.
66. Order 66 is like one of those moments where I almost cry in it. Like, yeah, I mean, it's like I watch it. Like, there's certain movies where like you want it to end a certain way. Like, I'm watching Rocky 4 and I'm hoping that Apollo doesn't get killed. You know what I mean? Like, there's certain movies like that where it's like, just this time maybe it won't happen. But like every time I watch that movie, I'm like, maybe this time Order 66 won't happen because it's like just like that dagger in the heart. Like you're like, oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
So let's see. Oh yeah, I have to always gotta watch the clock. So in terms of this specific movie, or actually no, I mean it's funny because I got friends who are like, I can't decide between which Lord of the Rings. I'm like, okay, you can just pick all three of them. That's fine.
Yeah.
And had you been like all 9 Star Wars, I'd be like, okay, that's fine. Like that's to me, that's one big story, so that's
I
okay.
feel like that's cheating. That's
Well, it
cheating.
is cheating.
Yeah.
You and I come from the same
Yeah.
place of like, one of my friends picked 5 movies and just yeah. But that ended up being a pretty good podcast. So what is it like? The characters, like which characters connect deepest to you, and like which character and their journeys and their moments, like
All right. So first off, definitely Obi-Wan Kenobi. Like total
yeah,
badass in this one. Like he was the like he was like had like the utmost faith in the Force. Like there was no wavering. Like he showed no fear. Like the scene where he jumps off of like out of the ceiling down into like General Grievous and like hundreds of clone troopers, and he's like, "Come on, bring it! Like I'm here!" Like he's like no fear. Like there's no point in the movie where he's like questioning what he's supposed to be doing. He's about it from the beginning to the end. Like in his love for Anakin, even as Anakin's like done all these horrible things, he's like, man, I can't go kill my brother. Like this
yeah,
is like, and he's like, no, that's not your brother anymore. Even like as he's like at the end, he's like, come on, man, I got the higher ground. Like just call. He's like,
this is going to end badly.
yeah, and he's like,
Yeah,
he's even at the very end, he's still trying to stop him, and then like I feel like it hurt him to have to take his lightsaber at the end. He was like he snatched it from him. It's like this is the end, and just left him there. Like that's all he could do. And then like just the pain seeing like Luke and Leia be born and seeing their mom pass away. Like I feel like that was the main thing that stood out to me was Obi-Wan for real.
this was the peak of his character arc, right? In
I
terms of
think
the whole
so.
Star Wars thing,
I think
because
so.
first of all, he creates Darth Vader. He has to confront all his actual relationships and what they really are.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, because like in A New Hope, it was kind of he said a few he said some, I mean he had some great things about the Force to teach Luke, but then it was like him going to the other side, and like he
Yeah,
pops up in Empire and in Return of the Jedi, but like
right.
like in
Tupac style.
the first one, the Phantom Menace, he's like all young and like trying to figure things out. Part 2, he's still like I feel like he's still trying to get there. In Part 3, he's like full on
Mm-hmm.
Obi-Wan Kenobi, like he's
Fully realized.
General Kenobi, yeah.
Yeah, I like the way you put it.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, that makes that's awesome. That's really awesome.
Even
Uh
Anakin, like even Anakin in that movie, like his like you see it all come full circle for him because like again it's one of those things you're watching the movie and like maybe this time he won't turn to the dark side, but like going in like that's going to become Darth Vader, but you're wondering how it's going to happen, and you
right.
slowly see him start going, and you see Palpatine kind of slowly reel him in with like his fear of losing his girlfriend or his wife and his kid. So I think it's like you kind of feel sorry for him. Like I mean,
Yeah.
like you know that like it's it's going to happen. You know it's coming, but you just like he gets played for a sucker from like from the very start, and he just reels him on in. And you see him like he gets Sam Jackson taken out, like, which is always rough to see. But and then he just goes in and he just wipes out all the younglings, and it's like, oh man, he just keeps going down and down and down and
Yeah.
down, and then
Let me ask you a question, since you're a Star Wars guy. This is something that pops up on dating apps more often than you think, where it's like, things you should know about me, and women will put Star Wars over Star Trek, and then I swipe left. I'm like, well, I'm Star Trek.
It's a different
it's a totally different flavor of ice cream. I mean, it's not even ice cream. It's like gelato and ice cream. But as someone who loves Star Wars as you do, why do you think Anakin? I am curious. Why do you think Anakin had, like, what was the weak spot in him that made him vulnerable to the dark side? Because like he's this powerful, but was it the whole taken away from his mom early? Was it what do you think was in him that made him?
I think it was fear and attachment. Like I think he was afraid of losing things. Like, I think that was one. And I think he was like I think he loved Padme. Like he definitely loved her, but I think he was more attached in like that physical sense than like
Right.
that deeper love. Like he loved her, but I think he was also attached to her and attached to what having her around meant, and not like I should have watched again, because there's a great line in there where they talk about like you can't be not being afraid to lose certain things, like being attached to them. I wish I could remember exactly what they said, but it's pretty much that. I feel like that's what it was with him, was that attachment and that fear was what drew him over, like kind of pushed him over the edge to the dark side.
Yeah. Oh, that's good call. Like codependent. I mean, I like how my 90s. Man, I really wish I knew about the way you grew up, because I wouldn't have felt like I was so advanced, because I read a book that, like, some holistic chick wrote in California once. I'm like, oh, look how aware I am. But anyway, no, but I think here codependent. Like he was just codependent.
Definitely, 100%.
Yeah. All right, let's move on. Move on. Okay, now I want to make sure, because now I feel dumb that I didn't. This was actually stuck in my head, but I thought it'd be funnier if I was wrong. We are talking about This Life, right? Starring Eddie Murphy, Martin Lawrence.
Yeah, Eddie Murphy. Martin Lawrence.
Thank God.
Was there another one? Was there another one?
There's like 2 or 3 more that I went on IMDb, and I was like, oh my God, if it's not. That
would have been hilarious. I'm like, what? This isn't my movie.
Like, why did you pick this? It's like the 70s, and it's Barbra Streisand. Like, this doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
So why do you love? Why is this one your favorite 3?
So this is actually one of the only movie that I've paid to see twice in the theater. Like I've seen movies twice in the theater, like some movies a couple times in the theater, but I pay once and like sneak on in. But like,
well, that's because you're smarter than most.
Yeah,
I saw Ace Ventura 5 times the first week it came out.
I mean, that was your jam right there.
That was the shit, man.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I literally paid money to see this movie twice. Like I saw it the first time, I was like, this movie is amazing. And I saw it the second time, and it's just as amazing. It's actually I only own 2 movies on iTunes. And,
really?
And Life is one of them. Life is one of those movies that I own on iTunes.
What's the other one?
Fight Club.
Yeah. How close is that to making the 3?
Oh, it was so close.
It was 4? Is it 4?
It's in the top 5. It's definitely in the top 5. Fight Club's definitely there.
Right on.
So Life is one of those movies that I always go back to. I mean, I think Eddie Murphy's an amazing actor. Like he's got such range. Like my boys hadn't seen a lot of Eddie Murphy movies, like my 2 sons. So we did like an Eddie Murphy movie marathon.
Which ones were? Which ones did you pick?
We watched Coming to America.
Yes,
we watched The Nutty Professor. We watched Trading Places. We watched The Golden Child, and we watched Life. And they were convinced that he was the greatest actor on the planet, because they were like, at the end of Coming to America, they were like, Eddie Murphy was all those people. Like,
they didn't
where it was just like, yeah, they were just kind of watching into it, and then they were convinced he was the best on the planet. So,
because he is. That was the whole point of Bader's and my podcast was Eddie Murphy actually compared himself to Charlie Chaplin. Like
Okay.
that was who he thought was. Well, I don't know. At least the way that I interpreted it was like that's who my that's the only person you can compare me to in the industry.
Yeah.
And yeah, his chops were ridiculous from the beginning. And we talked about life specifically, and it was really cool rewatching it for me. I mean, really cool because it was, I mean, man, late '90s. I mean,
Right.
Martin Lawrence, and this was right after First Nutty Professor, so he could do what he wanted. And then Martin Lawrence is at the peak of his powers.
Yeah. Then
And
you
then
got Bernie Mac in there.
Oh man,
Yeah.
I mean, I actually had to IMDb to be like, wait, is that Anthony Anderson?
Right.
Like
Like
oh my
so many good
God,
comedians in there.
Just it's so thick, and then like there's so much heart in that movie, which is really like Bader's argument was that it's not a comedy.
It's kind of not.
Yeah,
it's kind of not. I mean, there's some hilarious parts in it, but it's just a really, really good movie about like love and friendship for the most part. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of people, there's a lot of ways that it connects and like people come together and kind of split up, but there's a lot of love in that movie from beginning to, and cool. Then like, you know what I mean? Like just like the whole, like even the way it ends with them like old as hell at the baseball talking about being friends. You know what I mean? Like that's all it's about, the whole movie. Yeah, like I really dig it. Like I mean, even and there's so many like quotables in that movie that me and Ottman still use to this day. Like whenever somebody does something to like try to get over him, like, oh, you just gonna let him take your cornbread, huh? Like to this day we say that. Like and
that's a good
like
one.
Whenever somebody's trying to blame us for something that may not have been us, we'll be like, it's fine. I'll just stand in front and be like, man, we didn't shoot nobody. That's Spanky's booze. You know what I mean? Like this, so there's just like so many, like there's tons of quotables that we still use to this day, like from that movie, because there's just so much that stands out and so many like little things that, like we still talk about like people not being invited to the boom boom room if they have a bad attitude. Like you're definitely not gonna be invited to the boom boom room. So like yeah, I think it's just there's so much good material in that, and there's so many like little things that you might not pick up on or you might miss if you're not really paying attention, because there's some comedic geniuses in them. And then you randomly throw Ned Beatty in the movie and Oba Babatunde. Like there's some really like great serious actors in there that hold their own too in their own way.
What's his face? I mean, he was in it for literally less than 4 minutes, but I cannot believe I can't pull his name, but he played the I mean, Ned Beatty shot him, the guy who set them up.
Right.
But he was in Full Metal Jacket, like and My Cousin Vinny. Wait, was he in My Cousin Vinny? No.
He was in Frighteners. Which I think is a very highly underrated Michael J. Fox movie. I love that movie.
I wasn't ready for that movie to be referenced on any level at all.
Frighteners.
You threw me off. Well, just when you say, because I don't think Michael J. Fox was in that many movies. He was a TV guy.
Yeah, he was a TV. I mean, like, you know, Back to the Future.
Sure. Well, then 3 of them right there. You know.
And then there was that movie where
Sean Penn. Do you remember that one?
Which one?
Where it was like it was his Vietnam movie where he like.
Oh, Casualties of War.
Yeah, that was heavy.
Yeah, that was heavy.
Like,
yeah, I forgot all about
American
that
President, his comeback. I just rewatched that one recently.
And it wasn't the one where he's like trying to date like two. No, I don't think there was one where he's trying.
There was one where he was the concierge. Do you remember that one? That girl was fine.
And like the older lady was hitting on him. Something where he's like working for some company and like the boss's wife is trying to get with him or something like that.
Okay, hold on.
I can't remember.
Now I gotta look it up.
Wasn't he in Doc Hollywood too?
Oh yeah,
Right?
Man. I feel you know who would punch me in the side of the head right now for saying that he didn't have a big movie career?
Stringer or Bader?
Both of them, but mainly Bader. Bader would just look at me and be angry. Good Wife. He was in The Good Wife. Yeah. This is gonna take too long.
Secret to My Success. Is that
That's
one of his
it?
movies?
Oh, that was
That's
great.
The one. Yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah. Was it Secret to My Success? Or there was a. Wait, For Love and Money. That was the one I was thinking of. Life with Mikey. Tales from the Crypt.
I didn't know he was in Tales from the Crypt.
Yeah. Casualties. The Hard Way.
I remember that one with James Woods. Was that James Woods? Yeah, I remember that one.
Wasn't ready for that one. American President. God, I loved that movie. That movie was great. Yeah, I can't. That's weird. Casualties of war, and then it jumps to family ties, and then it's that whole thing. Secret to my success. There you go. But anyway,
I
went down
digress.
the Michael J. Fox wormhole.
It's hard not to. It's Michael J. Fox.
He's so good.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, it was one of those. It was funny because it was funny for me rewatching Life, because it really was this like. I mean, I just thought it was a really, really great depiction of, like you said, of a friendship that started dubiously. Pretty much, they wouldn't have been friends if they made it back to New York. Like, they would have completely gone their separate ways. I thought Martin Lawrence playing the straight guy was really interesting.
Yeah, it was, because that's not like what he was known for at that time, and he was like the square, and
yeah,
he had to like pull him on. You know what I mean? It was there was just I think like just like I feel like his like Eddie Murphy changed a lot in that movie, but just seeing Martin like getting used to being in prison was fun to watch, from him like being scared. Even like another one that we always say, don't be scared. Don't be scared. Like that said a lot.
You know what? When that popped up again, it hit me. I was like, is that where we got it from?
Right.
Is that from there on out that was a thing?
There.
So good. The outtake when he says it to Martin, and Martin starts laughing.
Yeah.
He's like, don't be laughing.
Okay. Even like Can't Get Right? There was a student in our after school program that was like, he was like, we thought he was in like the 4th grade. He was so big, and we were like, why is your homework so easy? Like, why can't you read? It turned out he was a 1st grader. He was just gigantic, and we used to call him Can't Get Right. Like, that was his nickname for the longest time.
You were there. We were both there in the 90s. I love how, well, actually, you were probably one of the only people who knew this, but I just remember feeling like so many of us were like, wow, we are so much more progressive than anybody before us. And then like looking back, it's like, no, we were animals.
Yeah.
We were fucking animals.
Yeah, we were.
As bad as
as in a lake at Tom's Farm, like.
Yeah, things that would just like things that would come out of adults' mouths, just like, that wasn't cool. Why did you say that to us? We were children.
Yeah, right.
But sorry. So what were the character traits and characters in that movie that make you come back to it, like specifically?
I think it's a little bit of a lot of things. Eddie Murphy's character, and Martin Lawrence's. I feel like the two of them separately and the two of them together, because like just like their interactions with everybody, is like really good. Like just like the way that they bond with each other, is pretty cool. Because like they start off and they hate each other. Like they despise each other. Like Martin blames Eddie Murphy for everything, and then slowly but surely they start to bond. Like, and it's not it's kind of out of necessity. You know what I mean? Like they start, like they realize that they need each other, and like the whole scene with the cornbread scene. They're like, Ray Gibson Club, you never heard of the most violent killing spree? Like, and then they start going into it. Like, and then they're like, they start realizing like their wit is what's going to get them through, and like so they start bonding. Even small characters like the warden. Like his character is played so well. Like you think he's like, even like the small little scenes like where they're talking about the babies, they're like, oh, I'm the pappy, and he starts laughing.
And
like just small stuff like that. And like even when he sends them up to the cottage when they're too old, he's like, there's not a day that hadn't gone by where I wish you two weren't dead. And he just walks away, and they're like,
yeah. But does he say one more thing, like, and I'll miss you? And then there's that moment of like a real vulnerability, which I did my one-man show on tour to Australia, and it was really interesting that like male vulnerability, that's basically the theme of the show, and it freaked people out.
Really?
Like, freaked people the fuck out. Yeah. Because especially in a country like that where they're still, I mean, I always say Australia is my favorite country in the world if it wasn't for the systemic, or not even systemic, because that shit's like right. I mean, if it wasn't for the blatant racism and misogyny, Australia is a perfect country.
Huh.
And
I
like
never
the
been
men,
there.
oh, it's well, well,
Eventually, if they let
one
us in.
day,
Yeah,
yeah.
one day.
I got my bags packed. I'm so ready to move there. Uh, but yeah, it was like that like moments like that was the cool thing about this movie was what at least for me it was like watching a bunch of men bond. I mean, there's the fight scene over the cornbread, and it was funny when it started. It's like this reminds me of Cool Hand Luke.
Yeah.
Yeah, but just a bunch of people coming together, and Eddie's. Well, I don't want to put words in your mouth specifically about Eddie's character. I mean, what is it specifically about Eddie's character, and what is it specifically about Martin's character?
I think it's like Martin's growth from being like naive to like really seeing the world for how it was good to see, and like Eddie's growth from like being like a big get over, like he was like the biggest con man get over artist, like just trying to get over on everybody, to actually like seeing him start to like have a heart and care about people and like break down those walls and start being like you were talking about, being vulnerable. Like he was just like both of them grew, but kind of in different ways.
Mm-hmm. I
Yeah.
love how Eddie's talents, like, I remember when that scene popped of like, oh, we just had women and we had a barbecue, and it was, and then when he ran off and
Yeah.
when it was just like, yeah, he put it together,
Hmm.
and it's like, oh, okay, that's a thing, like,
Yeah. Right.
but he'd be the guy to throw that party together, and all right, let's move on. Let's move on.
Okay.
Um, Django Unchained.
Django. Wow.
which I,
So
which, um, real quick, for those who have never seen the movie, don't see it right before you go to bed. For
I'm
the
sure you get some
first,
wild dreams, huh?
well, I was up till 6, like doing one of these, like oh. But
Yeah.
I want to hear, why is this one of your 3 favorites?
All right. So I feel like all throughout history class, right?
Right, here
From
we
the
go.
beginning, from like forever. I mean, Friends, beautiful place, awesome school, but I feel like the only times I heard about black people in history were slavery and the civil rights movement,
And a
right?
little
Like
bit
that, a
during February.
little bit during February, but it was like, but it was still in the context. Yeah, you might get like George Washington Carver and like Martin Luther
Right.
King. I mean, like you get like the same stuff, but like regular history class, it's slavery and it's the civil rights movement, and that's
Right.
it. Like that's all. But like, and then like all the slavery movies that have come out like have been a certain way. Like
With the
it's
white character being the, well,
yeah,
there's
being the yeah
savior.
yeah being the savior. Like I mean, most movies white character being the savior, but slavery like that too. And then it's like they're like you can't tell me that no one fought like according to history class, no one
Right.
fought back against slavery. Lincoln freed everybody, and then
Correct.
happily ever after. You know what I mean? But like
Yeah.
you can't tell me like somewhere in my mind I was thinking that you can't tell me that nobody was like, man, fuck this. Like,
Fucking
and
fighting.
you know
Like
what I mean?
for
And then
reals
like
fighting.
and then you look back and there were tons of people throughout history that did it, but you didn't really hear it. And then like I think actually seeing it on screen, like there was, I mean, this was like when 12 Years a Slave was coming out and all these other movies were coming out. And I remember one of our funders asked me about I don't we didn't get funding from them anymore after we had this conversation, but we were at a conference and he asked me, he's like, hey, did you see 12 Years a Slave? I was like, I'm not watching. I'm tired of slavery movies like that. I'm going to watch movies like Django where at the end he gets his girlfriend back, he kills everybody on a plantation and burns that motherfucker to the ground. And he was like, uh and then we didn't get funding. We didn't get funding from them anymore. Like that shit got cut off. But
a little real for him.
I mean, I thought we had a little closer relationship than that. I obviously not. I thought he wanted the
Right.
truth.
Yeah.
But so I gave him the truth. But I think like just with that movie, like there's just so much about it. Like from seeing Django like at the beginning of the movie, like in chains, to like his whole arc of like going to the store and buying the terrible clothes, to like figuring out what he wanted to do, like starting to use his wit, and then at the end of the movie, like you know what I mean, like he's showtiming on his horse, saving his girlfriend. You know what I mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
he's like the ultimate hero. Like, and he
Yeah.
frees so many people along the way. Like, and makes the people that pay that need to be that need some
That
payback. He makes them
yes.
pay. Like all of them. Like he gets them all. And like
Everybody gets theirs.
cool ass cowboy. Like I mean, like you got the whole
Gunslinger.
gunslinger. You got the whole clan scene where he makes them look like idiots. Like you know what I mean, like there was just so much. Like even a scene where like you see him whip a slave, like somebody's been whipping people. Like they
Oh,
put the scars on him and his girlfriend. Like and you see him like whip somebody on the screen and that's like that's cinema gold
satisfying.
right there. You know what I mean? Like that's like
Satisfying.
there's so much in that movie where it's just like all the years of terrible slavery movie. I mean, slavery was horrible, so the movie's gonna be terrible. But damn, like give us something. Like give us
Give us
something.
something.
You know what I mean? Like, and I
Yeah.
feel like that was that something. So like that
Yeah.
is from the second I sat down in the movie theater and
Oh.
started watching. I was like, this is it. This is what I've been waiting for. This is my favorite movie. This is one of my favorite movies of all time. Just like,
Yeah.
and even like his I can't remember his homie's name in the movie, the German dude, Dr. Schultz.
Yeah. I
Like
thought that character was that threw me off how great that character was.
phenomenally done. You know what I mean,
Yeah.
like big heart, like didn't have to do certain things, but like
Didn't
was
have
like
to shoot Leonardo DiCaprio. He did not have to do it. And when he turned around, I was like, I couldn't help myself.
right.
I'm sorry, I couldn't help myself. And it, in terms of not being black, you know, I thought he was a great representation for all of us who are like, man, yes,
He was like the ultimate. He's like the ultimate ally. Like he was
yeah,
he was it. Like he was it. Like and he did like at no point because there were points where he could have wavered and been like, nah, I've had enough. But he was like, nah, he wanted to see it
he
all the way
saw that
through.
shit to the yeah, beat
And
me
he
to
also
it.
didn't have that like that savior complex because I feel like a lot of people, I think like that's where a lot of like really affluent white people get caught up is having that savior complex. Like they want to be Philip Drummond. They want to go in the hood and save some kids. Like
What a
instead of like
gorgeous reference.
you know what I mean? Like
Perfect.
instead of empowering people and like that's the way you really help somebody is by empowering them with
Yes.
skills and tools and then let them lift themselves up. Like and that's what he did. Like he was like, well, I'm not going to do this for you. I'm going to show you I'm going to show you the game. I'm going to show you how to shoot. I'm going to provide you with all these things and you're going to do this for yourself. And I think
To the point
that's
where
what
even I'm sorry, to the point where Django took the lead. He's
exactly.
when he was like, "Can I please speak to my hey man?" And he was like, you told me." And I
Yep.
was like, and he was like, "Fuck, like,
Yeah.
oh, you're right. If we got to
And
do this,
I mean, he was right, and also Leonardo DiCaprio's performance in that movie, Sam Jackson's performance in that movie, like they both slayed it. Like you hated Sam Jackson in that movie, but he played it so well. Leonardo DiCaprio they both played their roles so well in that movie, so it's just
yeah,
like very
the
well acted.
performances."
And then the Tarantino dialogue is in there, so it's just like all of it tied together. Like it's one of my
I have a
favorites.
I have a question about that because Seth and I used to have an argument all the time that he
Hmm.
was like, "I fucking hate Tarantino. That guy's a motherfucking racist. He's a piece of shit." And I was like, "Why?" And he's like, "Well, because he drops the N word in all his scripts." I'm just like, okay, but my argument, which is still kind of what it is like, look, man, artists are artists. Like you can hate them for what they do, and yeah, some of them, because we're human beings on the planet, probably are racist. But I don't think he's one. And then Django came out, and it was this very clear, like, I think this is how he really feels.
And,
Um,
and then I think like I remember people were upset with how many times the N word were used in Django, but like, what do you think people were saying back then? Like, I don't think
yeah,
they were like African American, you know what I mean? And then like I feel like Tarantino's capturing like a lot of what people don't want to talk about in this country. Like I remember Heath and I had this conversation, Knox box. We were in our Knox box having a conversation about this, and we were talking about like racism. You know what I
right.
mean? And he was like, so he was like, Ali, how many like out of 10 white people, how many of them do you think use the N word? And I was like, I don't know, maybe like 6 or 7. He was like, try closer to 9 or 10. You know what I mean? Because he was
Yeah,
talking about his college experience. He was like,
right,
that's when y'all aren't around, like that's and he's like, because Heath doesn't look Jewish. Like
right.
Heath doesn't look Jewish at all. Like, I mean, not I mean, like
No, I know
stereotypically Jewish. Like
exactly what you
Heath can
mean.
pass. You know what I mean? Heath could look like
Yeah, slips under the
anybody.
radar. Totally.
Exactly.
My
So like Heath.
brother-in-law, like he looks Cuban, so nobody knows what the fuck he is.
So I mean, like people let their guard down, and he was like, Ali, man, it's like he was like, it shocked me
Yeah.
Like, because he was like, the first time he heard it, he was like, I was gonna say something, and then like I noticed that everyone was doing it, and I would just, and like, fuck am I supposed to do? Like, so I think it
Right.
was like, I think Tarantino's like putting it out there. Like, I feel like a lot of people may not want to hear it, may not want to agree with it, but that's how. I mean,
that's how. Well, if there was ever a time when, like basically the last 4 years, like it was my argument, especially living in LA, where like, you know, my running joke to anyone is like, super progressive people think I'm a Nazi, but super right wing people think I'm an anarchist, because I question both sides all the time. I'm like, I'm on no one's side.
yeah,
But one thing that I can't stand is when people are like, "Oh, can you believe this is happening?" Yes,
right,
I can believe this is happening. This has been happening the whole fucking time. And when, you know,
yeah,
so yeah, I mean, one of the things that I thought was funny as I was watching it, because it was so fucking satisfying. So satisfied every step of the way, that every step that Django took, that he and Schultz took to even the score, lack of a better term. Um, I was like, I'd pump my fist. I was fired up, and then it made me think of like. And here's the thing: I wasn't interested in seeing Django at the time, because because the one before it was Inglourious Bastards, and I'm a World War II movie nut, so like to kill Hitler was like
yeah,
Twilight with like, oh, sunlight doesn't kill vampires, it makes them sparkle. I was like, no, 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 no. The rules of the game
right,
are Hitler lives and shit. We got to build. But then it was like, oh wait, Tarantino creates his own universe, and this was interesting to me, because my brother-in-law, he's Jewish. His favorite Tarantino movie, Inglourious Bastards.
right,
Like, oh my god, so satisfied. And then here's the thing that I was like, wow, I'm some sort of an asshole, because my favorite one is Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And
okay,
like when the scene came when the hippies were gonna come fuck some shit up, and like, you know, especially living in LA as long as I have, like that was a turning point in LA history where shit was really cool, and then it wasn't.
yeah,
And the Sharon Tate murders, to see them get theirs in the Tarantino universe, was so satisfying for me. I mean, third or fourth watch, I was like, ooh, that's a little extreme and kind of crazy, um, but that Tarantino's defense of all his violence in his movies, he's like, it's because it's fucking fun. And then the people in the media are like, oh, but it's violence in the movies. He's like, I'm not shooting anyone for real. It's a movie.
yeah,
And like, no one can really wrap their heads around that. And like, yeah, I thought seeing it was, I mean, the Schultz character, like it was really weird. It kind of reminded me of like, there was a part of me that was waiting for him to turn.
right,
But I think that was also Tarantino's genius, is that we just saw him as the fucking awful Nazi, the Jew hunter. And there's that scene where DiCaprio is bringing him a piece of cake, you know, and he couldn't stand him, and he's like, you know, would you like this, you know? And then the line is, I don't like sweets, out of Schultz's mouth. Which Inglourious Bastards, like this, one of the most tense scenes in the movie, other than the beginning, is when he was eating that dessert with the French chick at dinner, and it was like super threatening the way he was eating the dessert. So it's like this awareness of us as an audience, our expectations, and it really wasn't. And this is kind of weird. It wasn't until he shot him in the chest that I was like, oh yeah, he was 100% on his. I mean, it felt like he was on his side the whole time, but there's a part of me that didn't trust it, and I thought that was weird. That was weird for me.
yeah. I mean, I'm with you. I mean, like there definitely could have been points where he could have just like slid on out the back door and just left everything there. But I mean, the definition of ride or die, like he was there till the
Yeah.
very, very, like even more than Django, because Django would have just been happy to just like the three of them rode off into the sunset, and that would be the end of it. But Schultz wasn't having it. Like he was like, "You are an awful human being, and you don't deserve to live anymore."
Right.
And he knew it was the end for him. Like I don't think he thought he was getting out of there. I think he was just like, "This is the end for you, but me taking you out is worth it." So I mean, I'll bite it for you, for the team. So
yeah. That was, oh man, God, there's so that so thank you for that. That was dope. I'm glad that you picked that movie, because me watching it last night was one of the more fun moments I've had all year.
Yeah, it's such a good movie. Like there's so many people that haven't seen it. So like you were talking about, I feel like you were one of the things you were saying was like movies that bring you joy to show other people.
Yeah.
And this is one of those movies. Like if people haven't seen, I'm like, oh, you haven't seen Django? Let's sit down and watch this right now.
What are you doing for the next hour and 45? I mean, 2 hours and 45 minutes because we're about to have a great time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, that movie. Yeah, that's you know, ever since I started doing this, I just started listing what I consider my favorite movies, and now I'm up to 86, and this made the list.
Yeah,
Easy.
I'm top 86. I like it.
Oh yeah, top. It doesn't sound very impressive, but
I mean, you saw the list that I gave you that I had to.
Oh yeah,
this was after cutting a lot of movies. Like I had cut a lot of movies, and it was down to like 25, and I was like, "Fuck, how am I gonna get 25 down to 3?" And I was just like, "Well," and I was like, "Which ones bring me the most joy showing other people?" And
because
definitely one of them. Life is one of them, and Star Wars just makes me happy in general.
Right, and that's that's why I asked this question. Like, I remember when I just started thinking about the question because it forces people to kind of categorize things of what's important to them. Mm-hmm. So I kind of give guidelines when people can't narrow it down to 3. But it's like my personal favorite movie of all time, I think the greatest work of art in terms of motion pictures isn't in my top 3. Isn't in my favorite 3. I mean, it is, but it's 2001. That's my
fantastic movie.
It's a whole other thing. Yeah. Like there are movies and then there's this thing. And I always loved it. But then a friend of mine was like, hey, she's like one of my biggest quarantine buddies, and she lives in New Zealand. And she was like, oh, I'm watching Ocean's 11. I was like, wait, where are you in the movie? And she was like, oh, I'm at the part where, and then I immediately start typing the dialogue. Like I could time it where when I'd hit send, I knew exactly when it was going to show up. And then I was like, wait, hit pause. I'm going to watch it with you. And that's like, wait a second. This is telling me that this is my favorite movie.
Gotta be.
So I had to move it out.
Joy, it's gotta be.
Right. And that's the thing is that it's a joy thing. Okay. So if I may, because I don't want to take any more of your time, because you do have these things called responsibilities in a life. I just got to deliver groceries right now. So the reason this is my favorite question to ask anyone is because it's my sort of, especially first, when I meet people, it's my workaround to find out everything about who they are without asking, so tell me everything about yourself.
Yeah.
And it's cool, as you were saying, because all the things that you were saying about these movies say so much about you. Like that your favorite character is Obi-Wan, this wise person who had, the way you described how his emotional journey in this movie, in episode 3, of like, he didn't want, he was fully present. He didn't want to he didn't want to hurt Anakin, but he knew he had to.
Yeah.
But his wisdom and his presence and his trust in the Force, speaking of, your awareness of an energy that is unseen, an early awareness of an energy that is unseen and encouraged. Life with the friendships and the development and like the development of who they were as people. And like what's funny about Life is that there's like you said, the warden, there's a giant heart in that movie.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I guess I think we're so programmed now to think of a prison movie and it's like, okay, where's the male rape scene? Because this is definitely going to fucking happen.
Yeah.
But then to watch a bunch of these, all of them, like you said, everyone involved in that prison camp had a relationship that was like, they didn't want to shoot whoever crossed over the line, which was like, wow, I didn't see that coming. So there's a gigantic heart that I see in Life. Definitely. And specifically Django. That shit's fun.
It's so much fun.
It is so fun. And also the rise of both of these characters, at least Schultz and Django and Schultz. Like Django, the horse dancing at the end.
Right.
So good.
It's like the ultimate like cherry on top of the cake.
Yeah,
like I'm gonna show time on my horse in front of my newly saved woman in my nice suit after I just killed everyone and burned down the plantation.
Burned down the biggest plantation in Mississippi. I mean, so satisfying. And also, like you said, ride or die. Like Schultz had his back. And, one of the things that jumped out at me was the second Schultz realized, like, the whole reason he picked him up was like, hey, you can identify these people. That was it. That was the only plan. I need you to identify these people so I can fucking make some money. And as soon as he picked up, like, wait a second, there's a lot more going on with this person. He actually has a taste for this. And he became his partner.
Right? Not his employee, but his partner.
You are my equal. Well, I mean, 2/3, 1/3 equal in terms of money, but we are in business together. Yeah, you're not my employee. We are together. And that's why when you gave me this list, I got really excited because I was like, yeah, I mean, these three movies are the reason why, like, my parents think, when they think of Ali, they think of this really big dude who has a giant smile and a big heart.
So, I like that. I'll take it.
Yeah.
I'll take it. Giant smile, big heart, I'll take it.
Yeah, so there you go. There you go. Well, thank you for being a guest of my podcast.
Hey, man, I loved it. I loved every second of it, Mikey.
Dude, I dig it. I loved hearing you talk about it, man. It's funny that the way you talk about Star Wars, like, man, I'm going to watch all 9 right now. And I know me, I'll be like, it's 5 minutes. So
I'm like, maybe I'll just catch them later.
I'll watch some Shatner and Nimoy.
Call it a day.
Yeah. Your 3 favorite movies, brought to you by me. I'm your host, Michael Talara. Thank you so much for listening. Please check us out on all the social medias. If you liked what you heard, please subscribe to the podcast and please tell a friend. That would be a really cool thing. Thank you so much again. Hope to catch you on the next one.